Well, there we go. What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing today? Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the Just Gonna Say It podcast. Welcome to just coming and hanging out with me on a Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m. That's what we do every week. I hope you all are having a great week so far. We are going to get into There's No Such Thing as Dumb Questions, Volume 9. We try to do these every once in a while. And I basically read back through some of the comments over the last couple of months, some of the more thought-provoking ones, and also stuff that sometimes we make these videos and clarification on some of this stuff is good, right? So, and also when people make inaccurate assumptions in the comments, I like to try to kind of flush all that stuff out so that we don't, have multiplying misinformation. So a couple things before we get started. I got a couple of really important things to talk about. First of all, these are ad-free podcasts. So to support the channel, you can do a couple things. You can use Super Chats to ask questions. You can ask questions all through this thing. I'll try to get to them as much as possible. If you use a Super Chat, we'll drop what we're doing and ask that right away, or answer that right away. The other thing is you can use the links in the description of this video. Those companies support the channel by affiliate stuff and various things. So check those things out down there. All kinds of stuff. Guitar related stuff, not guitar related stuff, kind of fun stuff down there. So you can check that out. Also our other channel, youtube.com/Dylan Leslie. And then the other thing is you can go to Dylan Talks Tone and you can buy pickups. And one of the things we got going right now, just FYI, is we've got the January mystery box. We were going to do 10. They sold out in like a couple hours. So we went ahead and upped it to 20. I want to say 3 left, but we're not going to up it anymore. It's only going to be 20. So I think there's 2 or 3 left. Some cool stuff in there, some unique stuff in there, some stuff that's never going to be done for anything else but that box. So you're going to check that out. It's going to be pretty cool. And then I'm going to try to, in the next 2 weeks or so, I'm going to get those shipped because we're actually making some things for that box. And then we're also using some stuff from some other companies. So we're still compiling all that a little bit, but it'll come out in the next couple of weeks. The idea is I'm going to ship them all at the same time because it's a mystery box. I want you to all get them kind of at the same time. So that's how that's going to work. Yeah, so there you go. Also, you can support us Patreon, and that link is right down here if you want to support us with that as well. Does it count as a dumb question if the person asking it is not smart? We just use the dumb question thing as a figure of speech. It's more of a joke kind of than anything else. One of the other things I want to mention too is that next week, the end of next week, I will be in Anaheim, California for the Wood, Wire, and Volts guitar show. So the NAMM show is going on the end of the month. I'm not going. I'm actually going to the Wood, Wire, and Volts show, which is in the same town on the same weekend, but it's kind of where all the cool kids hang out because it's a bunch of smaller companies, a bunch of kind of like-minded dudes. A bunch of these people I know. If you follow this podcast, you'll know that we had Carlos Lopez, used to be at the Fender Custom Shop. He now owns Castadosa Guitars, and he and another guy are putting it on, and so Curtis Novak actually, and they're putting this show on, and so I if you watch that podcast or listen to that podcast, you'll know that Carlos, like live, invited me to that thing. So I'm going. And I am releasing something I've never done before. It's huge. It's a big deal. If you're on Patreon, you already know. But we're kind of trying to keep it only on Patreon for a little while until everybody sees what we got going next week. So, yeah. I think you're gonna dig it. It's gonna be awesome. So the Woodwire and Volts show, Anaheim. The public can go. Tickets are like $15 or $20, I think. So here's the thing about NAMM: you can't always get in, right? Because you have to have a badge and blah 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 blah. This is open to the public. You can just buy a ticket. So if you're in town, if you're around, or even if you are going to the NAMM show, and you please come by and say hi. I will be there with Texas Toast Guitar, so that's going to be pretty neato. So before we get into the dumb questions for the week, or for the month, or however, I think we try to do these like every couple months. I did something yesterday, and I don't know, I didn't know if I was going to do a whole podcast about this or not, but I'm always curious, and I guess this is kind of the segue into there's no such thing as a dumb question segment that we're going to do today. I'm always curious when people make like, well, most people don't play expensive guitars. Most people play guitars that are under $500. But here's what they usually do. Here's what typically guitar players are very self-centered. Well, a lot of people are, but especially guitar players. I don't know why it's specifically this hobby is really bad about it, but guitar players are very self-centered. So if they play a $500 guitar, they think, or less, they think that everybody else does too, and that only snobs play expensive stuff. And I get this all the time. It's not a fault of anybody. It's just kind of a thing that has happened over the years. So I put together a survey on the internets, and I found the results for two reasons very interesting. And I'm just going to share them with you. You can see them on the community page on the YouTube channel. We broke this down. 1,000 people voted on this thing so far, and the percentages have not changed. Okay. And there's a couple things that happen here. One, we did 500 or less, 1,000 or less, 1,500 or less. So this is the most expensive guitar you own. Is it $500 or less, $1,000 or less, $1,500 or less, or $2,500 or more? Now, the first thing that happened is a bunch of people, again, because we're all self-centered about things sometimes, freaked out because there was no section between like the 1,500 and 2,000. Well, my guitar's 2,000. I don't have a section on here. Oh, I'm sorry. It wasn't necessarily an oversight, but I could only do 4. I probably could have broken it up a little different, but I could only do 4 things on the survey. And I really wanted that $2,500 mark for a reason. And I wanted the point of this was not to include everybody. I know it sounds stupid. But even if we were to include everybody that went from 1,500 to 2,500, that would further make my point. And that is this. In this survey of 1,000 people, 16% of people say that their most expensive guitar is $500 or less. 23% of people say that their most expensive guitar is $1,000 or less. Okay. If we were to add in the percentage of people who say it's between 1,500 and 2,500 and the 2,500 or more, 2,500 or more is 39%. We're looking at the majority of people play higher quality instruments that watch this channel. Now, obviously this is only 1,000 people, right? It's a very small subset of our community. Of the millions of people that have watched our channel, it's very small, right? It's very small. But I think it illustrates that just because you think something is true, it's not. Doesn't make it true, right? And so when we start to look at bigger numbers, and the bigger this gets, I bet it doesn't change at all. Because I've been watching it for the last few days. From 5 votes up to 1,000, it hasn't changed at all. That delta between, and the percentages have kind of moved around, but the overall delta between people that play high quality instruments versus more entry level instruments is different. It is that far apart. Okay. And so it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything except that people say this all the time, and it's just not true. It's very interesting. It was just an interesting thing. Like I said, it doesn't mean anything really when it comes down to it. But I'm like, I wonder if we could get people to be honest about what they play and what they do, then, yeah. Yeah. So I think that's pretty interesting. It depends if you got a guitar that has increased in value too. So I agree. If your guitar that you own is worth more than $2,500, even if you paid $500 for it 30 years ago, that counts, right? That counts. You're not playing a cheap guitar. And the folks that say, and again, this is only my audience on this. This is all of us, right? This isn't the whole world. This is just all of us who are watching this channel all the time. But when you're operating within a community, when you're hanging out within a community and you're assuming something about somebody else because you think something, it doesn't always work. It was just interesting. It was literally for the purpose of I'm curious and I wanted to share the results with you. I thought it was pretty neat. Okay, let's get into there's no such thing as a dumb question. So we're just going to go through a bunch of these and I'm going to answer this stuff. And if it spawns some other conversation or you have another related question to this question or whatever, get in the comments and ask it. You can use a super chat. I'll answer it right away. Let's just go. Okay, here's the first one. You can see the video that the question was on that kind of gives us some context. I have a Classic Vibe 72. Are you still doing these upgrades where we would like retrofit those cheap wide range pickups? I'm interested if you are. Great channel, by the way. Thanks. We are not. We stopped doing them. Here's why. We actually have to take your pickup and we actually have to take it apart. You have to send it to me. I have to take it apart. We have to rebuild it, get it back together, and then send it out to you. The process was so painstaking. Folks don't realize how much work it is to actually take apart a pickup, rewind it, recondition it, and put it back together. It's more work than building a new one. And people aren't actually willing and honestly, we use a bunch of new parts too. So the price that we had to charge to do it was because of the amount of labor that goes into it. It just wasn't reasonable. And I just didn't want to irritate people with that. To pay $150 or $175 to have this done, because we were doing it for $100 and it just wasn't worth it. Because it just took so much time. And so, because it takes way more time than winding a regular pickup. So, anyway, yeah, that was why we stopped doing that. 5 soldering myths. This is from yesterday, actually. My friend says 60/40 solder blocks DC and is just for AC. That's why it sounds so bad with music, and he owns a Cybertruck. I'm pretty sure this is an AI troll, but I thought it was hilarious because it's also Vladimir Putin, which I think is really funny. And so I just wanted to share that because I thought it was funny for no other reason than I just thought it was funny. Mini humbucker versus humbucker. 14 minutes to explain. This is clickbait. Sell, sell, sell without any sense of morals. These videos are really hard to make. And when you do these comparison videos, there's a couple things that you really want to do. Obviously, you can physically look at a pickup and be like, oh, this one's different than this one. First of all, I'm not responsible for your attention span. If you only have like a minute long attention span, go watch TikTok, right? You're just in the wrong place. But when we're doing comparison videos, especially, there's a lot of people. It's really easy. If you already know what a humbucker sounds like and you already know what a mini humbucker sounds like if you've clicked on the video, the point of you watching the videos that we make is to find out why. And so that's the goal of what we do, right? We dive into why. So understanding how this dimension makes this difference and the magnet type and positioning is different between the two and the size and the blah, blah, blah. Like we went into all of that, right? And that takes time to explain. So 14 minutes actually is, pretty reasonable actually when you're getting that technical to understand why. And that's it. It's real easy, right? Like you could say, okay, who plays a mini humbucker pickup? I don't know, just name somebody. And you can Google it and you can hear what it sounds like. And then Google somebody that plays a humbucker and you know what that sounds like. So, it's just an interesting thing. When are the surprise boxes coming out, shipping out? Probably the last week of the month. I think it's going to be the last week of the month. I'm waiting on one thing to show up. I'm waiting on one thing to show up. Let's see. 5 stupid pickup myths. Thoughts on 22 gauge silicone coated pre-tinned wire for electric guitar guts. You could use pretty much anything you want for wire in an electric guitar. When it comes to the hookup wire, we're not talking about any kind of voltage. We're really not talking about any kind of. There's no reason to get super technical about what wire you use. I would use stranded wire. I wouldn't use solid. But even then, who cares, really? The insulation doesn't really matter either. A lot of people think that there's a lot of noise that comes from unshielded wire. Like people make a big deal out of having a shielded wire from the volume pot to the output jack. It doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter at all. So it's not long enough. The AC hum that you get, which is 50 or 60 hertz, depending on where you live, is too long. The wavelength is too long to matter in a 6-inch piece of wire. Like it's just not worth having a headache about. So I wouldn't worry about it at all. You could use pretty much anything you want to do that stuff. Let me see if there's any questions in here that we might have missed. If you didn't put a bunch of question marks in front of it, I'm going to miss it. Here we go. Any idea why my Memory Man makes a squealing noise when switching between echo to chorus? It never did that before. It's in great condition. Probably a dead battery. So a lot of times, as the battery dies on stuff that has weird impedance, strange things can happen in there. I've had that happen actually. Also, the other thing that can happen, so you could put a buffer in front of it to give it some more power. Somebody mentioned that. Also, squealing can come from failing capacitors too, but that's probably not what's happening. It's probably lack of power. It would be my guess. Let's see. You didn't use a heat sink when you soldered the capacitor. Is that not necessary? Okay, so the capacitors that we use will operate up to, I think, 150 Celsius, which is what is that? About 275 degrees Fahrenheit, something in that range. Solder melts at about 350. So theoretically, you could, if you stayed on it for a really long time, heat the entire capacitor up. But here's the thing, you would have to actually heat the entire capacitor up to over 275 degrees. And it doesn't happen because it's literally so fast. Now, if you do not have a good soldering iron and you are sitting on something for a really long time, you might think, well, it's not as hot because the soldering iron's not as good, it's not as hot. But here's what's happening. The longer you sit with your soldering tip on there, more heat is traveling into those other devices, right? The things surrounding it. And so it's slowly heating up everything else. So it's better actually to solder at a higher temperature and move more quickly. I solder at 800. 90% of the time. Now, if I'm soldering something else, like let's say I'm, I don't know, repairing something on a circuit board with through hole stuff, and I'm doing, like building a pedal kit, for example, I'm going to cut that way down to like 650 so I don't burn any foil or, burn any traces on a circuit board. But for doing guitar stuff, when all you're doing is heating up a pot, heating up, the back of a pot, wire, output jacks, stuff like that, building the stuff that we build in a guitar, I would heat it. I would go at least 700, if not 750. I solder at 800, but I move very quickly. And so the hot and fast is going to do less damage because it's going to take less time. Okay. But that also comes with practice. So do what you're comfortable with. Don't damage your components, obviously. And if you are worried, then what you can do is just take an alligator clip and put it between what you're soldering and the capacitor. And that will soak up enough heat to, you don't need a big heat sink. Just use an alligator clip with nothing on it. Doesn't have to, just off the end of something, just an alligator clip, and just clip it on there. And that will soak up enough of the heat to make you not worry about it. The other time it sort of, I will tell you what I have ruined in the past is the vintage style, like Fender custom shop paper and oil capacitors, because the ends are they're waxed. And so I was doing it was one of those custom shop tellies, and we were changing it from a 3-way to the funky bass circuit that they're supposed to come with. Original. We were doing it the original way. And in the guitar, you could buy this guitar custom shop, and it would come with an extra capacitor to do it. And I ruined it because it got so hot so fast, and it was all wax, and it came apart. So some vintage parts you really do have to be more careful with. So there's a couple ways to look at that, but hot and fast to me is more effective. Let's see, Jose, I got a Bigsby B7 with a Vibromate, but the strap pin didn't line up perfectly with the bridge. Can this be fixed just with a new strap pin hole, or am I better off installing it regular? Oh, yeah. Okay, so this depends on what you want to do. I am not a Vibromate fanatic. Either you want a Bigsby or you don't, in my opinion. It's just my opinion. And you always want a Bigsby. There's no choice. Put a Bigsby on your guitar. But if you're going to do it, do it. Screw the Vibromate. For 2 reasons. 1, it doesn't line up anymore because it's got a gap underneath it because it's sitting on top of a plate. And 2, it goofs with all your string angles. And Bigsby's work well, if your string angles are correct, if everything is set up properly. But that much underneath it will goof that up. And your breakover angle will be wrong. You'll have more tuning stability issues, all those things. All the things that people don't like about a Bigsby will happen more with a Vibromate because it won't be right. So I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. You do what you need to do, obviously, because if you don't want to drill holes in the guitar, it's the only way to go. But if you have to change a strap pin, then you're going to be drilling an extra hole in it anyway. You know what I mean? So there you go. There's your gives and takes for that. Laser engraving P90 pickup covers. Will that cut flat work? Yes. Yes, it will. In fact, if you want to build your own pickups, we sell flat work on the website. You can buy Strat flatwork, I think, and Tele flatwork and whatever you want. In fact, yesterday we did a custom lap steel guitar pickup for Texas Toast Guitars. Pretty cool. It's, goofy string spacing and all that stuff. Did it 100% custom from scratch. And we will do that for folks if they are doing it in some kind of volume. You know what I mean? I did it for them because they also ordered a whole bunch of other pickups at the same time. You know what I mean? I won't do it one-off usually for people, but Dan Mays, got your P90 pair for my Wildcat. Dumping master tone suck using 300K GFS pots, 22 caps. Candidate for treble bleed opinions. Two things I would do there. I would not use GFS pots. I would use CTS. Those are cheap pots. I would not use them if I was you. If you're doing this work, it's a few bucks more for good stuff. What do we sell those for? $6, something like that. You're doing the work. It's a pain in the butt to work on that guitar. Do it once, do it right. 2, I'm not a treble bleed fan. Get in the comments, talk to other folks. Don't take my word for it. I'm not a fan of treble bleeds. I think that they are a band-aid to a problem that doesn't really exist. 300K pots, if it was me, I'd put 500K CTS pots in it. That's what I would do. To me, 300 is not high enough. I would have 500, and the tone suck would be gone 100%. So, and we have all that stuff on the website if you need it. Sorry if you've addressed this before, but how much should I worry about pole pieces in a humbucker lining up with my strings? You want it to be as close as possible, obviously. You know, sometimes they don't because you have a funky bridge or whatever. I mean, if you're just using what you have, it'll be fine. You want it to be good though. You know, I wouldn't worry about it a whole lot, but yeah, you want it to be as close as you can get it. Let's see. How to wind your first pickup. Nobody ever talks about getting that tiny wire into those start and finish holes. The reason nobody talks about it is because they just do it. That is something that you just have to practice. And as your eyes get worse and you start having to use like progressive lenses, like that's what I do. And you know, it's hard, but you just have to do it. Graham, I need to change out a faulty volume pot in my Gretsch Electromatic semi-hollow. To get everything back in there, do you use aquarium piping method or a string on the parts? I use... Well, what I have is different because I have goofy stuff around here because what I do. But I guess aquarium piping would be it. But I don't use aquarium piping because it's too stiff. I use the tubing that we cut for like pickup tubing. You know, like Fender pickup tubing. I get it in a roll, and so I can stretch it. It's a 1/4 inch. And I can stretch it over a pot shaft and do it that way, and it's flexible. I don't like aquarium tubing because to me it's too stiff. But if you can find thin enough or rubbery enough, it's better. I will also, so you can get it on McMaster Carr. It's a black rubber tubing with 1/8 inch inside and 1/4 inch outside or something. I can't remember what the dimensions is, but you'll find it on there. It's black rubber tubing. It's super flexible. And yeah, you can get it in a 25-foot roll. Works awesome. Drinking straws work good. Interesting. I've never tried that before. Huh. That's neat. Have you tried the Edwards blah, 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 guitars, Les Paul custom type? Any experience with the lawsuit? Here's my experience with lawsuit. People don't like my experience with lawsuit guitars. First of all, there was no lawsuit. That's all made up. Second of all, like they never sued Ibanez. Like it was just, it's a whole dumb thing. But what they're talking about is an era of time, the late 70s. To me, all those guitars are boat anchors with crappy pickups. They're all super heavy. They're cool because there's not a lot of them, and it's neat because of what they are. But objectively, they're not very good. I've used a lot of them. I've worked on a lot of them. Bernie's, Ibanez's, Edwards. Man, what's some of the other, even the Takai ones, like they're just bad Epiphones that are heavy, and all the electronics need to be changed. The pickups suck in most of them. So, if you want it because the novelty is cool, I would not tell you not to buy it. They're neat. It's neat to say you have these things because it was a period in time. And if you want to capture that period in time, that's pretty cool. Objectively, are they good? And are you going to be like one of those people in a forum who's like, I have a Bernie or an Edwards and it's just as good as a blah, 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 blah. It ain't. They're piles of garbage compared to a regular Les Paul, but they're cool. So, I wouldn't not get one. Let's see. Hinderer knife. I may have made that. I used to work for Rick. Interesting. I doubt it because I just bought this. It's brand new. So unless you worked for Rick, I don't know. I thought there was a production date on it somewhere. Maybe not. Maybe that was on the box. And I don't keep boxes usually for most stuff. I don't keep boxes. So I've only had this for 3 weeks. It's really good. I really like it a lot. The only thing I don't like, just to be super honest about it, because it's not an inexpensive knife. The only thing I don't like about it is I have a lot of really nice knives. I've Spartan Harsey Folder. I have 2 of those. I have a Chris Reed Sabenza. I have a bunch of really cool stuff. And on all of my fancy titanium frame locks, they're great. And this is the one that is the most susceptible to frame stick lock from your hand. When you press on the frame lock and it makes it to where you can't open the knife. You know what I mean? I've had to retrain myself how to open a knife because if you push on this at all, it will not open. It won't open. You have to really make sure that your fingers are off of that frame lock. And it's the most susceptible to that of any of these fancier frame locks that I've ever had. So that's the only thing I don't like about it. But you just train yourself to use it different, and it's fine. And I really, really like it. The edge is amazing, and I really like the Bowie blade. I like the Bowie style blade a lot. No, it's really cool. And I also really like the working finish because you can use it and beat it up, and it looks cool. I really like that a lot. All right, let's look at our next question. Whoa, this has got big. I don't know why I didn't minimize it. Top 5 guitars of 2024. You describe something you recommend as sick. Please stop destroying the English language. Well, if you look up sick in the dictionary, it is not the top definition. It's down a few, but it is in there as describing something that's super cool. So I'm not destroying the English language. I am effectively using it. The blue silicone aquarium tubing. Okay, good. Okay, thank you for clarifying. So the clear stuff that I think about is that more like surgical tubing. And so, okay, good. Oh boy, and I knew somebody's going to get in the comments and be like, I have a Takai, I have this, whatever, and it's amazing. It ain't no Les Paul, though. It ain't. It just isn't. I've worked on tons of them. And electronically, especially, they're garbage. The only folders you can pry off a car door with. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Everybody knows that sick and wicked are good things. Ooh, sick nasty. That's another good one, too. All right, here we go. You could edit out all the dog stuff and your video would be shorter. Can't you find someone to watch him while you're filming? Just saying. We aren't going to be friends because if you don't like puppies, I don't know what to tell you. Puppies are cool. He's sleeping right there. He's awesome. For those of you that don't know, I got a 6-month-old Weimaraner and he is amazing. And in the video that was on, it took 6 seconds out of the video. So I don't know why people are so impatient. So weird. The best clip-on tuner under $20. Guitar tuners, part 2. Sell, sell, sell. It's what YouTubers do. There's a couple of interesting things about this comment. The reason I left it in here. not to bag on Larry here. A couple things about what we do. First of all, I make pickups for a living, and I have a YouTube channel. The whole reason for the YouTube channel to exist is to promote my products so that I can make a living. It's how I advertise. It's what I do. So, and in 2025, just let that roll off the tongue once. It's how the world works. Advertising is different now. You don't buy magazines at Barnes & Noble anymore. Some people do, but not many. And you don't spend, did you know, you might not know this, but I do because I was in the business. When I was in the dirt bike business in the mid 2000s, a full page ad in Dirt Bike Magazine and Dirt Rider Magazine was $10,000. Okay. So in order for me, even now, in fact, even the advertising that I get offered every once in a while, like in Premier Guitar and stuff, nobody can afford it, man. So selling with a YouTube video is the right thing to do for me. It really is. If you don't like that, that's fine, but don't watch YouTube because that's what it is, right? Nothing's free. Stuff doesn't just happen by itself. Like the work has to be done, the hours have to be spent, and things have to be done. Now, when it comes to a video like that last video we just talked about, I think we took like 10 or 15 cheap guitar tuners and sell. What I'm really trying to do the opposite. If you have a bunch of guitar tuners out there, probably half of those I told you not to buy. The idea is to give you an idea of what to buy, what not to buy, and to avoid wasting money on, right? So just think about that when you're looking at various content. That's how I like to think about it is, how am I going to use this to, simplify my process? Sometimes it's, I watch a video and, oh crap, now I need to go buy a new knife because I saw this, or a new guitar, or whatever it is, because I saw this video and now it makes me want it. There is that. But a lot of times it's, how can I simplify my process? How can I make sure that I'm buying the right pickups, the right pedal, the right cable, the right capacitor, right? That's why you watch this stuff. So it's really about minimizing a lot of it a lot of times. Don't you know you should shut down your YouTube channel and yeah, exactly. Don't get a snark. You know what? And I think I said that in that video. I really did. The little ball end thing breaks off all the time. It's a problem I always had. Should you top wrap your Les Paul? This is a hot button, I would say. I have tried it and I noticed that the intonation is off. This is an interesting comment. The reason I left this in here and to talk about this is because in technical terms, when you top wrap your Les Paul, which I think is a dumb idea, don't do it. But if you want to do it, try it. You'll scratch up your tailpiece and you won't gain anything. If you feel like you do gain something, just string it regular and raise up the tailpiece. You will not lose sustain. We talked about thread pitch and pressure and all this stuff last week. Like it's a made up thing. But if you do it, the reason your intonation is off is because you need new strings. Okay. So intonation, all it is, it's very simple. You have a scale length on a Les Paul and it's 24.75 inches, right? And as the string gets thicker from a 10 to a 13 to a 17 to a 26 to a 36 to a 46, going from high E to low E, the saddles need to be moved because the string gets thicker and you need to maintain that effective scale length of 24.75 inches. So it needs to come back a few thousandths of an inch to compensate for the difference. It's half the distance of the difference of the diameters between the two strings. So from 10 to 13 and then 13 to 17, like that. That's why it kind of steps back, right? When you raise your tailpiece, you are not changing the length of your strings, or you're not changing the length of the scale. So technically, your intonation will not change. However, the broken over angle of your string slides forward, and now you have a kink in your string that is no longer on the saddle. And you may not see it, but what's happened is you've got a work-hardened area of the string that is bent, and then now it is moved, and now you have this ineffective measurement of scale length that you're feeling and seeing and hearing. And that's why your intonation is off, because you have ruined your strings. If you put new strings on the guitar, it will probably go away. Just something to think about. You might not think about that when you're doing that. If you don't do it at all, you completely avoid the situation. Let's see. Let me just double check. Nothing beats the Boss Tuner. Yeah, just to get a TU3, right? They are kind of the best. All right, next. Oh, here we go. This is a good one. Hang on, let me make sure. Okay, yeah. Do cheap pots and caps and switches ruin your tone? I've never heard such rubbish in my life. The max value of the pot only comes into play when the volume is turned down to 0. No. If the resistance is high enough to cut your signal, that it's doing its job. No. When your volume is on 10, the resistance will be close to 0. No. Please explain how slightly lower maximum resistance sucks tone out. You can't, because it doesn't and can't. It's people like you who perpetuate these stupid concepts among those who don't have a clue. Okay. And about how electricity functions. The only thing that has a noticeable effect is the taper, which will control how rapidly the signal is cut. Okay, let's slide this over just a little so we can leave this up here, and let's parse this out a little bit. I can't slide it over that much because I can't see it. Okay, okay, so the max value of the pot only comes when the volume is turned down to 0. Here's the problem. When the volume is turned down to 0, it's actually a dead short. When you turn the volume down to 0, your pot is actually reading 0 ohms. Okay? So that means it's a dead short. That's why you don't have any signal. As you raise it up, it goes up towards 250, up towards 300, up towards 500, right? It gets up to 500 and your volume is on 10, allowing all the voltage to go through. So basically everything this dude said is wrong. It's backwards. And so explain how, what does he say? Please explain how a slightly lower maximum resistance sucks tone out. You can't because it doesn't and it can't. Well, he's just dead wrong. He's backwards, which is okay. Sometimes that happens. Basically here, what's happening here is when your volume is on 10, you are getting the most out of the pot you can. So if it's a 250K, it's the furthest away from 0. When your volume is on 0, there's 0 ohms. It's a dead short. It's literally like putting a wire between your pot and ground. It's shorting your pot out, or your pickup out, right? That's why you have no volume. When you turn it up to 10, the lower the resistance is, the closer to 0 it is with the volume at 10. What happens is when resistance starts to get introduced to an AC signal, some of the frequencies start to get shaved off. The high frequencies go away first. This is why people like to use treble bleeds, because what they're doing is they're putting a backward tone on it, really. And what they're doing is they're shaving off low end to make it feel like there's more high end. That's why it's a band-aid to a problem. That's stupid, because you're literally just cutting more signal out with a volume mod. And so if you have a 250K pot, basically what's happening is it's shifting everything down. So it doesn't only cut off high frequencies, but it also shifts your entire resonant peak of your circuit lower. And so everything has less clarity. That's the easiest thing. So if you have it, and this is even on when your volume is on 10. A lot of people will say, well, I can't tell, you can't tell the difference between this and this when the volume is on 10. You can, if you have the ear for it, because if the pickup is capable of making this much frequency, and then you take a pot and you go from 500 to 250 and you cut its effective frequency down and all this is gone, you will hear that with the volume on 10. It's really interesting, but sometimes not everybody can. You know, if you have, it depends on the rest of your signal chain. If you have a really crappy cable, if you have a lot of other tone suck in your circuit, you know, like pedals and stuff, and your amp is noisy and you have, you know, a lot of other things going on, then sometimes you can't. If your pickups aren't good, then you won't hear it either, because the pickups have to be capable of making this. And then you start taking it away. This is something that a lot of people don't understand about guitars. And it's a very simple thing to try to wrap your head around. Is a passive guitar. We're not talking about EMGs and fluences and stuff. We're just talking about a passive guitar, the stuff that I know. A passive guitar, so with regular pickups, is a parasitic circuit. So every component that you add to it outside of the pickup itself. So the pickup is capable of making this sound, right? And it's capable of making this resonant peak and this frequency response from here to here, and it's capable of doing it. Everything after that you add to that circuit, whether it be a pot, a cap, wire length beyond, 18 feet, which is part of the guitar cable, 18 and a half feet, I think is the magic number. You are taking away from the potential of what that pickup is. So when somebody was saying earlier, they were trying to get the tone suck out of their Gretsch, there's that extra volume pot and there's a whole bunch of other crap going on in there that you can take out and it will sound better. So yeah, pretty neato. So if I have if I have a guitar with a 500K pot and I want less high end, will swapping in a 250K pot instead of swapping pickups do that? It will. There's a couple things you can do. 250K pot and go up to a 0.047 cap. And even at 10 on your tone pot, that'll get sweeter. It'll get sweeter. The other thing you can do is just play with your volume down to about 7. That'll sweeten it up too. Yeah. And in fact, that's how you'll know. So if you have, it's not 1-to-1 because of how it works, but just try this. Turn your volume and tone up to 10, and then just turn your volume down to about 7 or 6, and then set everything again, all your gain and all your however, and you'll probably find that there'll be less highs there. It'll be a lot sweeter. If your pickups are good. Now, here's the thing. If your pickups are bad and your pots suck, then you won't have that to work with, and your volume will just turn down. And if you put 250K pots in it, your volume will just it won't turn down, but it'll just flatten out. It'll just sound dead. So yeah, you gotta have good pickups and good pots for all this to really work. But good question. And that's kind of how you have to think it through. Really fun. I love doing it. It's fun. Epiphone Les Paul versus Gibson Les Paul. This is probably one of my most hated videos ever on all of YouTube's, and I'm so glad. Would a guitar tech spend more time on a Gibson setup versus an Epiphone as the name carrying the brand history? Oh, okay. So having set up many guitars, I will tell you that an Epiphone takes longer to set up than a regular Gibson. For a few reasons. The way they do their frets on a real Gibson versus an Epiphone takes more time because you don't have to do fret ends on a Gibson. Usually, if the guitar has been, the environment's good and whatever, it's way less work to set up a Gibson. Way less. And the hardware is so much nicer that it's faster. For sure. Is it always worth it to sell a guitar? Only 7 comments. Maybe your program is too long. People with average attention spans of about 40 minutes are tuning you out. So do you want to have fun or attract viewers? The answer is real simple. I want to have fun. I'm not in the business of attracting viewers or channel building for the sake of attracting viewers or channel building. The business that I'm in is making sure that you have fun playing guitar and making sure that I have fun making a living, making you have fun playing guitar. It's a circle of fun. And so all the content that we make, I have to enjoy making it. That was actually a live stream with Leslie. Live streams are always longer. They're way more fun, honestly, than produced videos because I get to interact with you like this. Super fun. I really like doing it. But that's the whole thing. Is this all of this? This is just all about having fun. 100%. I would not do it if it wasn't fun. And I am not the kind of person who's going to be like, I ask you to subscribe and I ask you to check out Patreon and all that to support the video. We do that in every video because building is part of living, right? Making a living. But at the same time, you don't see us, throwing guitars off of buildings and stuff. Like we're not out there clickbaiting a bunch of stuff. We make some fun stuff sometimes like that, but not very often. So it's the exception to the rule. Still watching on my TV, getting out of the chat, but everyone have a great night. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I dig this Peterson Strobo Stomp. That's a great pedal. You have to learn how to use that. That's got a little bit of a learning curve to it, but once you get it, I like it too. I have the Strobo. Which one is it? It's not the pedal. It's the round one. It's like the desktop one. And I really, really like it. I use it a lot. Use it a lot. Ivan has released a Paul Gilbert guitar with a built-in slide. That's neat. If it's a Paul, good idea or gimmicky, it doesn't matter because it's it's one of those signature things, right? Like if that's a thing that Paul Gilbert does and it's a Paul Gilbert guitar, then he thinks it's cool, then they're going to do it. Unboxing the Fender Squier Sonic. Quite a long vid. Could be about 15 minutes. Could edit about 15 minutes out of it. Well, guess what? You can't edit live videos. I mean, you can, I guess, afterwards, but the whole point is live. Yeah. It's funny. The people that are critical about how we do videos, I always tell them, like, would you like to edit? Or my favorite is, well, the way Phil does it, or the way Paul, whatever his name, does it, or the way, and I'm like, well, yeah, you know why? Because he has people. He has like his wife helping him. And he has, Leslie does the videos with me and stuff, but she's not involved in the guitar business really at all when it comes to like the day-to-day of it. So when you have somebody that, because I know for sure, because I've had conversations with Phil about it. I'm not going to air his business here, but he has a person to do this and this and this and this, various things surrounding his business. And I don't have that. I have to do all of it. So, yeah, and we did, I had a video editor for a while and everybody hated the videos. And actually I hated them because they weren't me. So I would rather just do the work. And if you don't like it, then fine. I don't care. Let's see. Super chat from Kyle. I love my new DAF. Already recording with it. Oh, thanks, Kyle. That's awesome. I'm glad you dig it a lot. That's really cool. Very, very cool. Let's see. Just got a modern phone that will read QR codes. Will this open me to all of your wiring diagrams? It will. It will. It absolutely will. In fact, we're trying to expand that. I've got some ideas to make that even better. So, super fun. Well, cool, you guys. There's a lot of stuff. Went through a lot of questions. Answered a lot of neat ones. Got to hang out with you guys for a while. I really, really appreciate everybody who watches these things every week. I mean, right now we have 108 people watching. Thank you so much for hanging out. Please do me a favor. I will say, please do me a favor and subscribe. I want to say that 60%, in fact, I could tell you, I think like 60% of people that watch the channel are not subscribed. So if you would, that would be awesome. I really would appreciate it. And check out all the things that we're doing in the description, you know, all the links and everything. It helps us out. And of course, there are only a couple. Let me see if anybody have ordered any while the video is going. Please, you should definitely check out the mystery box. We're going to do it quarterly, I think. I'm doing it just for fun. I don't actually make any money on these, but my motivation behind it is it's fun. Number one, you've probably got that message so far. And number two, there's going to be some stuff in here I want you to try. That's the other idea, is I'd like you to try some stuff. And so some stuff that I like and I think is cool, and I'd like you to try it. So that's also why it's in there too. Super chat from Lithium Man. I got 2 sets of center punches that I am looking to use in my PRS guitars and give one to my brother. Oh, cool. Thanks, dude. I appreciate that very much. Awesome. You guys are great. Thanks for hanging out. And we will see you in our next video, probably on Thursday.